pieces. We're good to go. Cowabunga!
The early 2000s were a great time. A great time for music, a great time for movies, and a fantastic era for action cartoons. 2003 had two shows based on young crime fighters from comic books. One of them was Teen Titans and the other one was Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. Unlike the 80s TMNT series, the 2003 series had a slightly more darker, serious tone. Despite all that though, it was still enjoyable and felt like a perfect fusion of the comics and 80s series. The good thing about Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles is that it's a franchise that has gone through many iterations in comics, TV, film, and video games. The Heroes in a Half Shell have a new animated iteration with a new film called Mutant Mayhem out and an eventual spin-off series to go along with it. Not only that, but we're getting a video game adaptation of a more mature Ninja Turtles story, The Last Ronin, from THQ Nordic. So, because of all that news, I figured I'd take a trip down memory lane and rewatch Turtles Forever, the last piece of 2003 Turtles media. Oh yeah! Geek forgot to review that film. I should tell him. He forgot to review Batman vs. TMNT 2. Maybe we could do a crossover review together. Oh, hey Geek.
Yo.
I saw your Ninja Turtles video, great video, but I was looking in the comments, people were saying you missed Turtles Forever, and I'm reviewing that. You also missed the Batman TMNT movie. Anyway, you want to review Turtles Forever?
I'm gonna go hang myself.
I guess he's not reviewing it. Fine. I'll do it myself.
I'm ready. You know my style, me and Brown do make them say wow.
Turtles Forever is a very important film in the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle franchise as it features the 2003 Turtles and the 80s Turtles. I totally get why people were bothered by the fact my buddy Geek forgot about it. Turtles Forever was made in honor of the 25th anniversary of the Ninja Turtles. It also came out November 21st of 2009, 1 month after Nickelodeon purchased the franchise from co-creator Peter Laird for $60 million, making it the last pre-Nickelodeon TMNT project. This film was produced by 4Kids, a studio that did some infamous localized dubs of anime, but they also provided a recording space for the voice acting in the 2003 TMNT series. I remember the 03 series very fondly, and Turtles Forever serves very well as a series finale. While there are some downsides like the original's 80s cast not returning due to 4Kids being non-union, which is an honest shame, I still find the special very enjoyable. It honestly sucks that we could have potentially gotten a reunion with the full TMNT 80s cast had another company provided dubbing. This could have been an opportunity for James Avery to voice Shredder one last time prior to his death, since he passed away in 2013 before the CGI TMNT series was able to do a crossover with the 1987 show's voice actors. While researching, I was shocked to learn that Shredder's voice changed as the 80s show progressed, with James being the VA only for the first 7 seasons. His contract expired and he was busy with Fresh Prince at the time.
I think our contract just ran out. I didn't leave the show necessarily.
Oh, because I was wondering why you left the show. 1993 was when the voice changed over to a new guy. It was like halfway through the season. And I was wondering why, if you left the show to do Fresh Prince more, or...
Well, I was working on Fresh Prince then, and it became increasingly difficult to get in.
I was just wondering if you might have gotten tired of the show and wanted to change or something.
Hey, Neil, I'm an actor. I do not get tired of work.
But yeah, I just had to address this before I go into reviewing the movie. Rather than bring back the OG voices, they went for sound-alikes who all do a decent job. Still, it's sad it's not the original 1987 cast. It's the only problem I honestly have with this film. Anyway, now we'll talk about Turtles Forever. Turtles Forever has a great start with Splinter upset at the 03 Turtles for being out in public. They discover in a blur blurry photograph of these unidentified turtles that they were fighting the purple dragons. After that, the 80s Turtles interact with Hun, the leader of the Purple Dragons, who notices right away that they are different turtles from the ones he's fought, and he's under the belief they know the Shredder of his universe. They mention they have mutagen from him, which Hun takes an interest in after seeing what it can do when it turns a fly into a monster. The 03 Turtles, however, show up to confront the 80s Turtles. Michelangelo takes a quick liking to them, noting that they have initials on their belt buckles like superheroes. Hun eventually gets defeated by the 03 Turtles, and the 80s Turtles get back most of the mutagen. What I really love about this movie is how it depicts the differences between the 03 and 80s Turtles. The 03 Turtles stay in the shadows away from people in the daylight, while the 80s counterparts walk to a pizza place unfazed by the humans there. In the 80s Turtles' universe, they would initially walk around in disguises and eventually become accepted as a normal thing in their New York in the series later on. However, in the 03 series, these turtles were not as out in the open, with the general public not knowing them. The 80s Turtles scare the people in the pizzeria, which they are completely oblivious to. 03 Splinter then ends up capturing them. The 03 Turtles then confront the 80s Turtles, and they reveal that they inadvertently sent the Technodrome to their universe after attempting to defeat their version of the Shredder once and for all. Both sets of turtles eventually find the Technodrome, and Shredder summons some Foot Clan soldiers, along with Bebop and Rocksteady. The turtles end up defeating all the robotic Foot Clan soldiers, which disturbs 80s Shredder, leading to him searching for the Shredder of the 03 universe. In 03, and Utrom, an alien race that Krang was based on, is the Shredder of this universe. His name is Shrel, and he went under the human identity of Oroku Saki in that universe. 80s Shredder expects to get along with this different version of himself, but Shrel can't stand the fact that the 80s version of him is very incompetent. Shredder and Krang subdue him temporarily. However, Utrom Shredder takes over the Technodrome after Karai saves him and seizes Krang's vehicle under the authority of the Foot Clan. I definitely like how this film subverts expectations. With this being a multiverse story, you'd think Utrom Shredder would team up with the 80s version, but instead he doesn't. He rather views himself as the one true Shredder, which is very interesting given the fact that the 80s counterpart and the comics counterpart existed before him. Anyway, the two pairs of turtles' search for the Technodrome is cut short once Hun and the Purple Dragons ambush them, along with a wolf monster, who is a Purple Dragon member who mutated off screen. The wolf being the guy who got hit by the mutagen early in the film. Hun eventually follows the turtles into the sewers with hopes of getting the mutagen, but it ends up burning his hand. Soon enough, he becomes a turtle and reunites with 2003 Shredder. The Utrom Shredder has stepped up compared to the 80s counterpart with Karai's help, with him now having more lethal Foot Clan robots and a mutant army. The 80s Shredder and Krang, meanwhile, are treated as jokes. One interesting thing I like about the film is how Raphael is annoyed by the turtles for the first half of it. He calls the four 1987 heroes in a half shell four Mikeys due to their goofy nature earlier in the film. He continues to have a pessimistic attitude until Splinter calls him out, saying that all versions of them are valid. Both Donatellos then build a dimensional travel device together in an effort to get anti-Technodrome equipment from the home dimension of the 80s Turtles. 03 Turtles' base then gets attacked by the mutated turtle Hun, along with Utrom Shredder's more powerful robot soldiers. I really like how large in scale the threats are in this movie. While the 03 Turtles' home gets destroyed, they quickly transport to the 1987 series dimension. The 03 Turtles realize that Utrom Shredder is back, since Hun mentions the one true Shredder is after them. The 80s Turtles at first don't take things seriously until Michelangelo tells them to. In the 80s dimension, the Turtles plan to get their anti-Technodrome gear, but first save this dimension's April O'Neil from goofy villains from the classic series. The funniest thing about this scene is the 03 Turtles are confused why their April wears a yellow jumpsuit, but later in the film, April O'Neil is wearing a yellow tracksuit, so I find that scene kind of odd. Eventually, they all meet the Splinter of that dimension. 80s Splinter tells 03 Leonardo and Raphael that they are welcome in his dimension. They remember their Splinter said the same about the other set of turtles. Both interactions in this film I really love, since the clear message of the film is that both incarnations are valid. I really like how both Splinters deliver that message. Sadly, 03 Splinter gets captured by Hun and brought to Utrom Shredder. He's upset since he wants the turtles. Still, he becomes less mad at Hun after being told that he's the perfect bait for them. The Technodrome rises out into the city while Casey Jones and April are going on a stroll. The 03 Turtles see the 80 Turtles' anti-Technodrome gear and are upset it's a lot more goofy and not what they expected. They then see the Technodrome got major Utrom upgrades and that it's a bigger threat than the 80s Turtles expected. After seeing that, the 80s Turtles decide to bring their party wagon and turtle blimp into battle. But before the turtles show up, it was interesting seeing Casey Jones and April attempt to take on the army of mutants and robots on their own. They are pretty competent at fighting them off, but realize they need the turtles. Thankfully, both sets of turtles show up. The turtles in their vehicles fight against various mutants, two of which resemble Razor and Toka from the second live-action TMNT movie, Secret of the Ooze. Anyway, 80s Shredder and Krang tell Utrom Shredder to kill the turtles, but rather than do that, he restrains them. Bebop and Rocksteady turning on 80s Shredder and Krang was honestly a really interesting detail with them, now working alongside Utrom Shredder. The turtles walk into the Technodrome and seemingly can handle a fight with Shredder, but it was all a trap. Utrom Shredder has a plan on finding the source of the turtles in the multiverse. During his monologue, various incarnations of the turtles show up on screen, including the 2007 Emoji Turtles. Utrom Shredder seemingly destroys the 8 turtles and the Technodrome disappears. Soon enough, though, they fall out of the sky after 03 Casey Jones mourns their disappearance. 03 Casey and April are surprised to see the 80s Turtles, but 03 Raphael points out that there is no time to talk to them since Shredder wants to snuff out all the dimensional turtle life. 80s Leonardo then relays that message.
Again?
If we don't stop him, it could spell the end of Ninja Turtles everywhere. Forever.
Oh, that's why they call it that.
I really love the high stakes of Turtles Forever. The dimension of the 03 Turtles is in jeopardy due to the Utrom Shredders meddling with the multiverse. I find it especially interesting how Hun gives up his equipment to the Turtles once he realizes he's in danger. The detail I love most about the erasure of the universe is how the characters become pencil sketches as they get erased. This happens to Hun, April, and Casey Jones. What a dark and ambiguous way to end the special with the 1987 and 2003 Turtles ceasing to exist. Just kidding, they end up being fine. I just needed room for an ad break. 03 and 80s Turtles managed to avoid erasure by transporting themselves to the dimension of the Mirage Comics Turtles. I find it really funny that Raphael wants to retire there since he's the toughest of all the 03 Turtles. The Mirage Turtles, the Prime Turtles in this film, do not get along with the 80s and 03 Turtles at first. I really like how Leonardo narrates as he fights the two sets of turtles, which is a great satire of the grittiness of the original comics. The Prime Turtles eventually team up with the 80s and 03 Turtles. The Mirage Turtles act as bait to Shredder, and the 80s and 03 incarnations show up to fight him. Utrom Shredder is shocked to see that the turtles are still alive, and it turns out Karai saved them. Alongside her is 80s Shredder, Krang, and Splinter. Karai makes it clear that killing the turtles will destroy the multiverse, but Utrom Shredder does not care. One of the Mirage Turtles kicks him, but Utrom Shredder grows larger due to technology from the Technodrome. We get a tease of Krang growing large with his robot suit, but Utrom Shredder defeats him real quick. The most interesting thing about this film is that Karai warns Utrom Shredder that everyone, including him, will cease to exist if he kills the Turtles Prime. You would expect he'd have a change of heart. However, he attempts to squeeze them to death in an effort to end the Turtles once and for all. Utram Shredder is the ultimate hater. He'd rather cease to exist if it means the end of the Turtles. The other Turtles are defenseless against him until Bebop and Rocksteady shoot him with the Technodrome when he isn't looking with a laser. And just like previous film adaptations, this version of Shredder dies like a bitch. The Turtles say their goodbyes, and the end of the film has a nice fourth wall break where the creators, Kevin Eastman and Peter Laird, have a spoken cameo, revealing that that comic book they were in was issue 1, which they just finished illustrating and writing. Overall, Turtles Forever is a very fun movie. It's a great celebration of the history of the heroes in a half shell. It's not perfect, like I said. The original cast from the 1987 series did not return, but thankfully they reprised their roles for the 2012 series. Sadly, James Avery passed away before then, so Kevin Michael Richardson voiced his version of the Shredder. They definitely would have gotten James back for the CGI series had he been alive when the crossover episode happened. Given how passionate he was in that old YouTube interview about his role of Shredder, it's a shame he never got to voice him again. While I am glad the 1987 VAs like Rob Paulson, who was already Donatello in the CGI series, got to play Raphael again alongside his co-stars, it's a shame it was not a complete reunion. I am aware of the 1987 crossover episodes with the 2012 series, but I have not seen them at least in full. It'd honestly be fun to cover them in the near future. Despite the drawback of no 1987 series voice actors returning, Turtles Forever is still an enjoyable movie. It was the perfect way to close the 03 Turtles' story. Turtles Forever to me was one of the first big crossover events I saw as a kid. I remember watching it on Nickelodeon when I was younger. Crossovers between legacy characters in the form of specials are something I really love as a fan of long-running media. Stuff like Dave the Doctor was made to honor Doctor Who's 50th anniversary, and I really loved it. As far as recent stuff goes, Spider-Man No Way Home is another great example. I really love when a piece of media looks back on old and new incarnations, and Turtles Forever was the first one I remember watching since it preceded those two crossovers. It was really fun revisiting this movie, especially since then TMNT has several other incarnations under Nickelodeon. Back then, TMNT just had numerous comic runs, 3 live-action movies. Actually, scratch that, only 2. There's only 2 movies. And TMNT 2007. That was pretty much it as far as the Turtle multiverse was back then. Oh yeah, and there was a live-action show by Saban. Actually, never mind, there wasn't. I am glad that TMNT has grown as a property since then. Turtles Forever commemorated 25 years of Turtles in a great way. I really hope we get another anniversary special like this again someday. This has been ShadeX, and I hope you all feel nothing but good vibes.
It's Turtles? I don't know how this came to be, but soon there will be none.
Nice to meet you, now I'm here to beat you with full force. Mess up your facial features. Hasta la vista, I'm selling all y'all little Caesars. All y'all stuff your face with is pizza crack.
What fools are these? So weary of life. Wow. That they take the name of the Shredder.
I crossed the line like a letter. Smash all of you turtles, put you back together. Indeed, I squish turtles like a tight girdle.
It works. The trans-dimensional portal is receiving the coordinates now. Farewell, Turtles.
Move strike with mad vengeance. Ask Splinter, he know I'm coming with bad intentions.
We can spell the end of Ninja Turtles everywhere. Forever.
We came to lose. 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 We came to lose.
We're too cool to go. And power up. It's not working.
I think it's time to call a war. Still Facebook playing villains and more. With heroes in a half shell going to war. Got the city under siege and they holding the fort. Got extra large pizza boxes all on the floor.
We're trying to save you from that. From the Shredder.
Individuals starving the floor. So the samurai swords on point for the cause. Dangerous metals highlight the reign of terror. The twilight meets the reign of Shredder.
Whatever it is you have done to destroy them, you do
dark
it to
clouds and the strangest weather. Breaking news, the front line spray the ooze for sunshine. Only dangerous rules. We fly with nunchucks that'll tame your crews and lace the enemies. We ain't came to lose. We ain't came to lose. We ain't came to lose. We ain't came to lose.
Turtles Forever was the first crossover between two sets of Ninja Turtles. The film came out in 2009 and was a crossover between the 2003 and 1987 Turtles. It had its issues, like none of the classic cast, but 4Kids didn't have enough money to hire them due to the studio being non-union. I talked about this film in my last video, so I figured I'd take a look at the two crossovers TMNT 2012 did with the 1987 series to see how they compare to the previous one. TMNT 2012 is a series that I really loved. The thing that I really enjoyed about the show was the creative decision to make it CGI instead of 2D animated. When I first saw the Nickelodeon CGI series, it reminded me of the 2007 film, which also used that form of animation. TMNT 2012 also has a banger theme song.
Yo, yo, yo! Ah!
Anyway, unlike Turtles Forever, the crossovers the 2012 show did have the 1987 cast return, aside from James Avery, who sadly passed away before then. I really wish he could have reprised his role as Shredder one last time. However, I am still glad everyone else returned. Rob Paulsen was obviously going to return as Raphael, since he was already Donatello in the show. The original cast of the 1987 show first appeared in a cameo role in the Wormquake 2-parter. The first appearance of them was the main characters of 2012 glancing at their 1987 counterparts. Donatello simps for the classic April in this scene. Yeah, that ship in the show was weird. Sorry for reminding y'all of that, but I had to address it at least once. The 2-parter ends with the 1987 Turtles ready to fight the worm monster. However, they do not interact with the 2012 Turtles. Both sets of Turtles would eventually cross over in Trans-Dimensional Turtles and a story arc titled Wanted, Bebop, and Rocksteady, which served as a fun finale to the series. I get why the show ended with the crossover because the team clearly didn't want to end the show with the downer of a dark post-apocalyptic ending. I am pretty sure that was in Elseworlds anyway and not the true ending of the show. Anyway, without further ado, let's start with Trans-Dimensional Turtles. The episode Trans-Dimensional Turtles is the 10th episode of Season 4. It begins by addressing the arc of the season, which takes place in space. Fugitoid is in it, voiced by David Tennant, and the Turtles talk to him about the threat of the Triceratons. The Triceratons suck up Earth, which is the inciting incident of the season as mentioned in the updated opening theme. However, rather than face off against the Triceratons, the 4 Turtles eventually get sucked into a random portal. There they run into the 1987 Turtles. All of them perceive the other Turtles as threats, aside from Michelangelo, who gets along with his older counterpart. The 1987 Turtles argue they aren't threats, noting that Krang is messing with both of their dimensions, which is why they were summoned. Still, most of the 2012 Turtles don't trust them. The funniest bit in this episode is when the show does a jab at the fact Rob Paulsen voices 1987 Raphael and 2012 Donnie.
I think I'm gonna like putting some more cracks in this imposter shell. And you, Gappy, why do you sound so weird? Me sound weird? Heard yourself lately?
Eventually, Krang shows up and the Turtles fight him in a goofy way. The 2012 Turtles comment on them being goofy. Krang gets back up and thwarts the two Mikeys' attacks. He then goes to another dimension, that being the 2012 one. I really like the usage of 2 art styles in this episode. Seeing both versions of the Turtles in both 2D and CGI was neat. It reminds me a lot of the Jimmy Timmy Power Hour specials, which were also produced by Nickelodeon. Due to the space plot, the excuse for the 2012 Turtles being able to return to their home is time travel. This episode hits a lot of the beats Turtles Forever hit, especially the scene where the 1987 Turtles attempt to eat pizza at a pizza place but are stopped by the 2012 Turtles because, like the 2003 Turtles, they also live in the shadows. However, besides that, I was surprised to see all the 2012 Turtles, aside from Leonardo, siding with the Turtles midway through the episode. Rather than have the Turtles annoyed with their 1987 counterparts like in Turtles Forever, I really love how this episode goes in a different direction. I really like how Leonardo is annoyed with the Turtles in this one, rather than Raphael, who you'd usually expect. It's a nice change of pace. It makes sense since the 1987 Turtles were characterized as all being Michelangelo for that movie. However, in the first crossover with 2012, the 1987 Turtles are distinct enough. The Turtles face off against Krang, who grows giant but escapes. Luckily though, they get one of his Dimensionizer pieces. The Donatellos team up to figure out the Dimensionizer, which mirrors the work the two Donnies did in Turtles Forever. But before Leonardo leaves his dimension, he reunites with Splinter, who he remembers got killed by Shredder in the future. Splinter tells him to leave with the Turtles, and Leonardo says goodbye to him. It's at this moment we see the TMNT 2012 version of Krang, whose title is Subprime, voiced by the late Gilbert Gottfried. 1987 Krang is mad since he didn't want the Turtles transported there. It's then revealed they are in the Technodrome. One detail I really love is how this episode interconnects the 1987 series with the 2012 series, by canonically making Krang the cousin of Krang Subprime. Since Krang is from Dimension X, it makes perfect sense for them to be related. I also love the detail of how 1987 Krang is viewed as a screw-up by the Krang alien race. The Turtles fight off all the Krang and then go to the 1987 dimension where they remove the Dimensionizer. However, the two Krang cousins mention that they need to destroy the Prime Dimension for all versions of the heroes in a half-shell to cease to exist. I like how in this episode, rather than have all the Turtles go into the Prime Dimension, both Donnies go in. I find it interesting how they retain both art styles in this reality. The comic book Turtles are depicted as menacing and don't talk, and I find that very interesting. The scene embraces the comic book format, which panels too, which I think is neat. The Donnies avoid the Mirage Turtles and take the Dimensionizer out of their dimension. The Turtles then thwart the plan of the Krang cousins by destroying their tech. Krang Subprime then catches wind of the 1987 Krang's plan to destroy the TMNT multiverse rather than conquering it. I love Gilbert Gottfried's insults aimed towards 1987 Krang before he banishes him. It's hilarious.
Because you're an idiot, a moron, a dingleberry. So you know what? I'm kicking you back. Oh no.
But yeah, both sets of Turtles team up to fight Krang Subprime. They succeed in removing him from his robot suit and yeet him into the Mirage Turtles universe. We then see the 1987 Turtles in their home dimension fight off the worm, only to see Tiger Claw escape. As a 22-minute episode, I really love Trans-Dimensional Turtles. It's shorter than Turtles Forever, but it showcases the two sets of Turtles really well. I really love how this episode connects itself to the end of Wormquake. Another thing I love about this episode is that there's clearly more story to tell given that it ends on a cliffhanger. I am really looking forward to what's up next.
We'll be right back after these messages.
When battling the foot, my motto is keep your feet planted, except of course when you're in the air. Which brings us to the Turtle Bubble Bomber. Our Bubble Bomber drops smoke-filled bubble bombs. Boom!
War. War never changes.
Finally, we've got a multiple episode arc crossover featuring the 2012 and 1987 Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. It's essentially another movie similar to Turtles Forever. Right away, I noticed some differences from the previous 2012 crossover, which I really loved from an aesthetic point of view. In the 1987 universe, the animation is 4:3, which is a neat detail. Previously, the TMNT 1987 universe was HD, but I am glad this crossover arc made an effort to make it feel more authentic between the old and new shows. In this episode, Shredder and Krang accidentally ditch their versions of Bebop and Rocksteady when their Technodrome is sent by Krang to the 2012 show universe. The 1987 Turtles then capture Bebop and Rocksteady, wondering where their Shredder and Krang went. This episode definitely serves as a finale to the 2012 show, since Leonardo is bored that everything has been peaceful. He stares at a picture of Splinter and him and his young turtle brothers. This moment really hit hard as someone who didn't fully watch the 2012 series. Splinter canonically dies in this universe. I was aware he was dead prior to the previous crossover since I saw Transdimensional Turtles, but I wasn't sure if it'd get undone, but no, he's permanently dead in the 2012 universe. I honestly can't think of a TMNT adaptation where Splinter dies, unless you count the comics, so I gotta hand it to Nickelodeon for allowing that to happen. On a lighter note, I love this universe's Bebop and Rocksteady. They are broke, living in a warehouse together, and they are looking for a job. They find a classified ad looking for a mutant warhog and rhino. Damn, 1987 Shredder and Krang, you aren't being subtle at all. Cut back to the Turtles and they are still bored out of their mind with no villains to fight. This is a detail of the episode I really love. They try to entertain themselves with TV, card games, and a cow's own creation device, but they are still bored out of their minds. Eventually, they decide to go outside based on some energy readings Donatello found due to their intense boredom. Then we get more Bebop and Rocksteady hijinks as they meet 1987 Shredder and Krang at a Greek diner. They are dressed to impress since they really want the job. Shredder is surprised and Krang gloats that his ad in the paper works. The setup for this episode is really goofy, but I absolutely love it. Bebop and Rocksteady then test their strength against the Shredder. At first he isn't able to defeat them, but they end up giving him a good beating with their different abilities and strength that they have, unlike their 1987 counterparts. The Turtles, meanwhile, are all still bored looking for crime. Donatello finds interdimensional activity from somewhere and doesn't know where Leonardo is. It turns out he's acting as a vigilante. I find it interesting he of all people is doing vigilante work since typically Raphael does that in other media. In TMNT 2007, Raphael did just that. Leonardo is called out for his vigilantism, which he did out of desperation. He then admits the city doesn't need the Turtles anymore. 2012 Bebop and Rocksteady are now in the Technodrome and they are treated way more kinder than their universe's own Shredder. They are happy to get paid by Shredder and Krang. Rocksteady notes that the 2012 Shredder just threatened to kill them. 2012 Bebop and Rocksteady then get their 80s outfits, which don't look too bad on them. The 1987 Turtles show up to the 2012 dimension and then Shredder tells them to fight them. Bebop and Rocksteady then easily defeat the 1987 Turtles. Rocksteady even attempts to kill the 1987 Turtles and Raphael breaks the fourth wall.
Wait, you can't kill us! This is a kid's show!
Rocksteady, noticing how weak they are, decides to bring them to Shredder and Krang. The 1987 Turtles hope they can break free and defeat 2012 Bebop and Rocksteady, but they pose a larger threat to them. Thankfully, Mikey witnesses their capture earlier and they find the 1987 Technodrome. I really love how the 2012 show embraces the lore of the 1987 show, with the Turtles of that show being familiar with Technodromes due to them facing off against Krang's earlier in the show. Sure, the Turtles note how goofy the 80s Technodrome looks compared to the ones they've seen, but the connective tissue is there. The 2012 Turtles try to say the 1987 Turtles discreetly, but the classic counterparts talk too loud. 1987 Shredder is then shocked to see another set of Turtles. Krang notes that these Turtles are dangerous, a clear reference to the previous time he got defeated. Bebop and Rocksteady have really great weapons to utilize, so the 2012 Turtles have issue beating them like they have in the past. Krang then puts them in goo. Rocksteady says they should kill the Turtles, however, Shredder suggests a worse fate for them. That fate is to witness him and Krang gloat. I find this scene very funny as it embraces the cheesiness of the 1987 cartoon. Bebop and Rocksteady, tired of 1987 Shredder and Krang's gloating, shoot their guns towards the Turtles and inadvertently free them. Still, with the Technodrome weaponry, 2012 Bebop and Rocksteady utilize it well against the Turtles, which impresses Krang, who viewed their 1987 counterparts as incompetent. Anyway, the 2012 Turtles eventually free their 1987 brethren. Neither can square up against Bebop and Rocksteady, so they escape. After the Turtles are gone, we get great banter between Shredder, Krang, and Bebop and Rocksteady. The villain's union joke is just so over the top. I love it. It's this episode, the 1987 Turtles get to meet 2012 April and Casey Jones. They comment on how young she is and are surprised she isn't a new supporter while still wearing a jumpsuit. The 2012 Turtles eventually train the 1987 Turtles in a montage to toughen them up. 1987, Shredder and Krang summon Bebop and Rocksteady to get a transmitter chip for the Technodrome. They give the two mutants a robot Foot Clan army to accompany them. I really love how a ton of well-known characters from the series return for parts of this arc. The most interesting interaction I love seeing was Karai's reaction to Bebop and Rocksteady and the 1987 Foot Clan entering New York. She alerts Leonardo about it after the mutant Warthog and Rhino steal the microchip, and an epic fight happens. It's a neat scene that features the Turtles and the returning characters of the show. The funniest part of this battle is when Karai confronts the 1987 Shredder, believing him to know who she is.
Shredder, you're not getting away from me this time.
What are you talking about, girl? I don't even know.
Shredder has no idea who Karai is, which makes sense since she never was introduced in the classic animated series. It's why people like the Nostalgia Critic were confused by her appearance in the 2007 TMNT movie.
Who's this chick? She the Shredder's sister, or?
And how will we know?
Are they gonna explain anything here? Hello? Explanation! Backstory! Anything!
But yeah, Karai technically is in 1987 lore now, thanks to TMNT Shredder's Revenge Dimension Shell Shock DLC. She was also in the classic TMNT game Tournament of Fighters, her first proper appearance in a game. Still, she never was in the show. This scene just made me chuckle with that context. Shredder refuses to fight her since she's a girl and calls the Foot Clan boss because he is weaker than her. The 1987 Turtles are successful fighters against the Foot Clan bots, but Casey Jones gets injured and Shredder, Krang, Bebop, and Rocksteady successfully escape. The two mutants hope to get respect from Shredder and Krang, however, they make them clean the floor. They also tell Bebop and Rocksteady to get Krang crystals to power the Technodrome. Anyway, on their way to get the crystals, the mutant villains are ambushed by Slash, Leatherhead, and Mondo Gecko. The appearance of these characters is another nice cameo to see. It was nice to see a few of the mighty mutanimals in this final arc of the show. They fight Bebop and Rocksteady, but the two manage to escape in Shredder's vehicle. The Turtles then plan to fight after realizing Shredder and Krang have all they need to open a portal to Dimension X. Like I said earlier, the banter between 1987 and Krang keeps making me chuckle, especially when Shredder gets mad at Krang for using his special ordered shampoo. However, besides being cheesy villains, Shredder and Krang do a lot of damage in this special arc of the 2012 show. They shock Bebop and Rocksteady after they confirm they'll be destroying the dimension with rock soldiers. The scene of both turtles in upgraded turtle vans with laser cannons is really cool, but unfortunately, they can't destroy the Technodrome. I really like how this TMNT 2012 arc makes 1987 Shredder and Krang actual threats when they were relegated to just jokes in Turtles Forever. Sure, the corniness of these characters is pointed out, they're very childish, but they are still being depicted as evil villains here. But yeah, Turtles Forever and Wanted Bebop and Rocksteady have a lot in common. Both turtles can't defeat the threat together. However, Bebop convinces Rocksteady to turn against Shredder and Krang by revealing that his Russian mother will die if the planet goes away. This leads to Rocksteady charging towards Krang and damaging the Technodrome. The change in allegiance of 2012 Bebop and Rocksteady is what leads to the day being saved. Wow, if I had a nickel for every time a TMNT crossover finale ended with Bebop and Rocksteady saving the day, I'd have 2 nickels. Which isn't a lot, but it's weird it happened twice, right? But yeah, the arc of Wanted Bebop and Rocksteady ends with the 2012 and 1987 Turtles parting ways. My favorite detail is the 1987 and 2012 Michelangelo saying their different catchphrases to each other.
Cowabunga! Booyakasha!
The 2012 Bebop and Rocksteady counterparts now want to be heroes. The 1987 Turtles, on the other hand, have newfound respect for their Bebop and Rocksteady and tell them they don't need to be their punching bags. Leonardo says they can do whatever they want. Rocksteady wants to be a personal injury lawyer, and Bebop wants to be a dancer. It's a really cheesy and wholesome ending. Both TMNT 2012 crossovers with the 1987 series are very fun watches. They are genuine reunions of the cast, which is great to see. I feel like James Avery definitely would have been in these crossover episodes if he was still alive back then. While James sadly couldn't voice his character again, Kevin Michael Richardson does an amazing take on 1987 Shredder. He has the same cartoonish villain energy James brought to the original series. I am really glad that the 2012 series did a more genuine crossover with 1987. Turtles Forever was a fun movie that I really enjoyed, but the downside definitely was the lack of the original 1987 cast. I am really glad that under Nickelodeon, the 2012 show got to do a real reunion. I honestly am really curious when another TMNT multiverse crossover will happen, since these episodes were a lot of fun to watch. This has been ShadeX, and I hope you all feel nothing but good vibes.
There. Gus? No way!
This will be the last time I have to look at you, disgusting turtle.
In the city, I'm fired up and I'm
Dude,
feeling gritty.
look at us.
Fists
We're like
rolling in the
more
air.
solid or something.
This batterine's gonna take you under. Shooting star blazing through the skies and the fire burning in my eyes. Catching up to you, I'm bringing on the fire. Gonna blow you up like dynamite.
Teenage Mutant Ninja Whips!
Where do these guys keep coming from?
I know! Totally bogus!
What kind of dimension is this?
You'll not foil this plan. Tonight, I dine on turtle soup.
Now you've got double trouble, Shredhead!
If you ever need help in the future, you know where to find us.
Cowabunga! Booyakasha! Step on it! Farewell! We're gonna kick some shell!